Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to a new episode of Business Insider. I'm your host for tonight, Mohammed Abdurrahim. And tonight we'll be talking about the 2024 China-Africa Cooperation Forum. Of course, they discussed a lot of issues in this forum, mainly how China will stand by Africa in the upcoming years. There will be an exchange between political parties, legislatures, consultative bodies and local governments. There will be cooperation between China and the African Union itself. Of course, cooperation on international affairs, experience sharing on national governance, anti-corruption cooperation, think tank exchanges, Belt and Road cooperation, and Agenda 2063 of the African Union. A lot of Chinese investments will be pouring, tens of billions of dollars will be pouring into the continent across many sectors, including technology, agriculture, energy, and others. There will also be trade facilitations according to the forum between China and the African continent, and Chinese help as far as infrastructure development in Africa, amongst other topics discussed in that forum. We'll also be discussing the rising cooperation between Egypt and China on all domains, and we are very delighted to have with us here tonight in the studio Dr. Mongy Ali Badr, Minister Plenipotentiary and member of the UN Association of Egypt. A very good evening to you, Dr. Badr. Always a pleasure to have you with us.
Good evening for you and your viewers, and it's my pleasure to be with you, Mohammed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Badr. Allow us first, as always, and allow us, dear viewers, first to watch a report.
As usual.
Yes. On our main topic for tonight, and then we'll come back to start our discussion with our distinguished dear guests. Please stay with us.
China's most important diplomatic event this year, the 2024 summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, which was successfully held in Beijing from September 4th to 6th, has ended with Chinese President Xi Jinping pledging more than $50 billion in funding to the African continent and announced elevating ties with all member nations. The summit was also the largest scale event hosted by China and attended by the largest number of foreign leaders in recent years. It is yet another friendly gathering of the big China-Africa family in Beijing after 6 years to celebrate friendship and chart the course for the future, which is of great significance under the theme Joining Hands to Advance Modernization and Building a High-Level China-Africa Community with a Shared Future. The summit took stock of the journey of China-Africa friendship, commended the progress made in implementing the outcomes of the summit, and reached a clear political consensus on strengthening cooperation across board. Two important documents were adopted unanimously, namely the Beijing Declaration on jointly building an all-weather China-Africa community with a shared future for the new era, and the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Beijing Action Plan. All parties agreed that the summit was a full success. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli participated at the 2024 summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in the capital, Beijing. During his speech during the event, the Prime Minister highlighted the vast development potential within the African continent, which has the world's highest population growth rates, making Africa a huge market with significant trade and investment opportunities. In addition, he emphasized the need for a genuine partnership between Africa and China, given China's success in achieving an industrial revolution which aligns with the FOAC main goals. Prime Minister Madbouli witnessed the signing of 5 memoranda of understanding with Chinese companies to enhance cooperation in telecommunications and information technology between Egypt and China. Premier Madbouli also witnessed the signing of a $110 million investment contract on the sidelines of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in Beijing. Moreover, Madbouli has witnessed the inking of agreements for new projects that will be carried out in the Suez Canal Economic Zone.
Welcome back, dear viewers. Thank you very much to Abir Hussein and Rasha Abdelhamid for this report. We're back here in the studio with Dr. Mongy Ali Badr, Minister Plenipotentiary and member of the UN Association of Egypt. Now, Dr. Badr, a lot of promises were made in the China-Africa Cooperation Forum for the year 2024, and it seems China is readier than ever to get involved in Africa on all domains.
Yeah. In fact, it's not promises. It's two documents have been yielded from China-Africa Forum. The first document under the name Beijing Declaration, the second one Beijing Platform. In fact, this forum started since 2000 till now. China started with economic diplomacy with African countries, and in fact it changes the situation from win-lose situation to win-win situation, and they change the relation with Africa to be joint cooperation. And in fact, this stress their policy with Africa to improve infrastructure. And when they promise African countries, they fulfill their promises. And this number one. Number two, in fact, I would like to read 3 paragraphs. The first one, because it's very important. The first paragraph that Chinese president have pledges to provide financial support to Africa with $50 billion over the next 3 years, and to enhance military cooperation as a part of China effort to deepen China relation with Africa, which is the key to this geopolitical ambition for China. Financial cooperation include this 50 billion include number one, 30 billion as a credit line, and the credit line for your viewers, it's a trade, bilateral trade between China and Africa. Number two, 10 billion as an aid for African countries. Number three, another 10 billion as a Chinese direct investment in African continent. Number two, China also, they pledged an exempt import, exempt from taxes, import from how many countries? 33 African countries that are considered least developed economies, from custom duties, as well as expand access to African export, to the export of these 33 African countries to come in Chinese market free from custom duties, and provide military aid. In fact, the third point, it's very important. Chinese president indicated during the forum that China has been upgraded its relation to the level of strategic relation or partnership with 30 African countries. It means it's a killing competition between China from one side to West on the other side. Who will win the game? Is it China or States and Europe? This competition, this trade war, or this war of cooperation with African countries, it's very useful for us. So that's why you can say, and I can confirm if you say that changing the international order from one superpower to bipolar, it's very useful for emerging economy. The last point which I would like to stress, that this continuation of cooperation between Africa and China, in fact, all this after the initiative of Belt and Road. They are exerting their utmost to guarantee the success of Belt and Road initiative. This initiative include medicine, health, poverty reduction, agriculture development, promotion of trade and investment, digital innovation, green development and capacity building, railway lines and road constructions, and even construction of hospital and also centers, even in the sport. They are constructing football stadium. So you can see that China start from technology, IT and AI till the infrastructure. Is this successful policy? In fact, till this moment, it's a very successful policy for China in Africa. The point now, or the questions, if we would like to discuss, would you think that China and Russia are going to spell West from Africa in future? It could be or not, because West countries started to change their policy in cooperation with Africa. And all of this, we should, as an African man and African countries, we should prepare our tools and the means how to deal with West and the East in very clever way to maximize our benefits from our cooperation with China, Russia, and United States of America.
Right, Dr. Badr. Egypt is at the heart of this. I mean, Egypt is one of the top and first countries in Africa to raise its level of relationship with China to a strategic partnership. Egypt is the gate to Africa and the gate from Africa. Talk to us about how Egypt will benefit from this China-Africa cooperation and the role Egypt is expected to play.
Very valid and a very professional point. Is it Egypt, with relation with Africa, they are going in one track? No, many tracks. Number one, bilateral relation between Egypt and African countries. Number two, tripartite cooperation, including all donors, Russia, China, India, United States of America, and European Union. Number three, we try to prove to our brother in Africa that we are willing to increase our relation with African countries. Number two, we are providing technical support in agriculture, in irrigation, in medical treatment, and also even through Al-Azhar and our Egyptian church. We expand our cooperation with few African countries in constructing dams to control water. This, it's a very good example in Tanzania. And also we are cooperate with most of African countries to develop their infrastructure, because the challenge in Africa, it's the lack of infrastructure. We have all things, but we don't have roads. And we don't have
advanced infrastructure.
And also we don't have enough infrastructure in road constructions, and even for IT. Some African countries, the system exists, but it doesn't work. They have everything.
About the agreements reached in the forum is the Chinese transfer of technology to Africa. That was one of the points that was raised.
Yes. This it gives you sign that China, it's open for African countries. It doesn't give something and they keep something on the other hand. No, they try to give an example of cooperation and partnership. They used to mention that the relation between China and Africa, it's a matter of strategic partnership. It's not win-win or win-lose situation like West. No, we are structuring very permanent and excellent partnership. If China import raw material from Africa, they try to invest in Africa, and also they grant aid, a lot of aid to African countries. Maybe they start to control seaport or some or airport, and they manage this airport. Because of what? They also would like to guarantee easy access of their export inside African countries. Why? Why China do all these things? Because of what? Tomorrow, as we all of us are following that West countries headed by United States of America, they mention what? If Trump, after election, or Harris, they are going to impose very high rate of custom on the importation of a Chinese good. So China would like to look for another market because it's the biggest producer country globally. So if
and Africa is a big market.
A very big market, and they are ready to receive China export. And in the meantime, the price of Chinese products, it's very reasonable. Maybe since 20 years we used to mention that Chinese products, it's very low price and very low quality. Now this story completely changed. It's a reasonable price and with good or reasonable quality.
Back to Egypt's position here, because as you mentioned, I mean, it's not just that Egypt can help this cooperation, the Chinese-African cooperation, but Egypt is an integral player, whether in Africa or because of its political weight, you know, as a leader in the region, with its strategic relationships with
Egypt
China.
would like to enhance dialogue, not only with African countries, but also with the donors, especially China and even India, Brazil, and
you're mentioning BRICS countries here.
you know, we would like to refresh again cooperation between South countries. Is it BRICS as a start? Yes, it could be. What China is doing now with South countries, is it refreshing of non-aligned movement? It could be. Is it the interest of the countries? It could be. This you can discuss this in details in different
I understand. I mean, it's the second time you've raised a terminology that indicate that you believe that there is or that there will be a shift in the world order in the upcoming years. I mean, you mentioned the word bipolar. And then you're talking about a revival of the non-aligned movement.
Yeah, it could be.
So,
but under a different name. Under a different name. You see.
And in a different shape.
Of course, it could be, because past is past already. Now.
But history repeats itself.
Sometimes, not all times. You know, the most important point, if we can make a link between Africa-China Forum and that future summit, which will be held in New York on the sideline of General Assembly of United Nations. And it will be
22nd and 23rd
of this month. And most of the leaders will attend this summit. It's a very, very important summit. As you know, that United Nations Charter is no longer relevant to the president. So that's why...
To the present.
To our time, or present. So it was a proposal to change this charter, which it could be matching with our present, and also it could be prepared for future. So they call it
the Future Summit.
Yes, Future Summit. I think most of the leaders will attend this summit, because they can attend the 79 General Assembly, and in the meantime, on the sideline, they can attend this Future Summit.
But it's a time of friction, really. I mean, globally, on a political level, on an economic level. I mean, these are difficult times. So are you optimistic that this future summit will, or can, indeed do something positive for the globe concerning the ongoing wars, concerning the climate change, concerning reduction of poverty, achieving the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations?
Yes. In fact, I used to be optimistic because of what? It's the desire of Western countries whom constructed the United Nations Charter, and they would like to change their attitude of dealing with the other countries, because there is another competitor, BRICS, on the other side. If they didn't match with the needs of emerging economies, they are going to leave West and to go to East. So that's why they would like to refresh the Charter of United Nations to be matching with the challenge.
What is required from the UN regarding the ongoing, unabated, unstopped for a year now almost, aggression of the Israeli occupation against the defenseless Palestinian civilians in Gaza and now in the West Bank? And most of the victims are women and children.
Okay, thank you for this point. In fact, I can say that Mr. Antonio Guterres, General Secretary of United Nations, is understanding this case, Palestinian-Israeli case, very well, since he was the Prime Minister of Portugal. I met him at that time, 1998, and this gentleman has
You worked in Portugal?
Yeah.
You served for the Egyptian government in Portugal?
Yes, in Egyptian embassy in Portugal. And you see, this man is understanding very well, and he knows the Palestinian right to have their own state on the border of 4th of June 1967. And you know that since the beginning of this conflict, he went to Rafah border, and in fact, he delivered very positive statement at that time. And till this point, he stressed that we should reach ceasefire, and also we should allow big aid or humanitarian aid to come into Gaza Strip. And also, he mentioned many times that we don't want to enlarge this conflict in the Middle East, because Middle East by nature, it's a very sensitive area. If you are going to have war here and there, all the area will suffer from war. And you see that United Nations reflecting the will of the member. It's not a matter of SG.
Right.
No, it's the will of the biggest power.
It's not the Security Council where there is a veto, but we've seen a good stance, at least from the General Assembly. But of course that has not been translated.
You know that they are thinking to enlarge Security Council now. Even United States of America, it's proposing, and they are suggesting to have 2 seats for African countries. So shall we are ready to have a seat to Egypt? I think we are very ready these days to have our own situation in international order. Also, I wanted to talk for BRICS summit coming in Russia on between 22 till 24 of coming months of October. This also will be very historical summit.
China will be there, Egypt will be there.
Yes, Egypt, China, Iran, India, Brazil,
Russia.
South Africa, United Arab Emirates, and
Russia, of course.
And of course Russia, they are hosting. Can you imagine that Russia, they are heading BRICS, the 2024. They already succeeded to have more than 200 events. And this event include commercial activities, economic activities, investment activities, even sport activities. And in fact, they were very, very successful in heading BRICS.
One final word, Dr. Badr, because unfortunately the time ran away very quickly, as it always does, really. So one final word on the China-Africa cooperation and the future of that cooperation, which could potentially be huge.
Emerging economies will win from this situation. And let me mention very important sentence that the signs of global system have appeared and we will return to bipolarity, and which provide opportunities for emerging countries and to choose and to achieve beneficial balance between the 2 blocks, East and West. And this requires from emerging economies require what? Availability and the flexible skills, policies, strategies, and for emerging countries. And I think Egypt is playing a very active role in this regard.
Indeed. On that note, dear viewers, on behalf of you, we thank you very much our dear distinguished guests with us here in the studio, Dr. Mongy Ali Badr, Minister Plenipotentiary and a member of the UN Association of Egypt. Always a pleasure to have you with us, sir.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
And a good night for you.
Thank you, sir, very much. And thank you, dear viewers, for watching us. Please stay with Nile TV.